What's up, real estate duck hunters? So I'm back finally, right? I've been away from YouTube for quite a while, so I apologize for the delay. I've been helping my students actually reach success inside of my program, my apartment locating real estate brand new realtor program for 2020. And with more and more students just joining the program, it's actually becoming pretty extensive to answer all of these student questions. So that's why I've been away from YouTube for a little bit, but we're back here with a brand new one. So we've got a really exciting one for you today, right? We're going to talk about the top 5 advantages of apartment locating, okay? So if you've heard of apartment locating before, then you might want to stick around to the end of this video just to sort of reinforce, your passion inside of this sub niche within real estate, which is called apartment locating. And if you're brand new to apartment locating and you don't really know what the heck I'm talking about, then definitely don't go anywhere, because we're going to talk about the top 5 reasons why you should be interested in this sub niche. Alright guys, we're back. So let's go ahead and do this, right? So the first reason is, well, there's no paperwork with this industry, right? So the cool part about apartment locating is that unlike being like a traditional realtor and really a lot of niches inside of real estate, being a realtor, even a loan mortgage originator, all sorts of real estate sub niches that we can think of, most of them require, like, even if you're an appraiser, right, or a home inspector, just every field in real estate requires some sort of paperwork here and there, right? So the cool thing about apartment locating is I have found that in this industry, you don't actually need paperwork, because essentially all we're doing as an apartment locator is we connect, potential renters or tenants over to apartment complexes that might be a good fit, right? So all of our work revolves around talking to people over the phone, asking a few questions. That's called the pre-qualification, and then we send over an emailed list digitally over to these potential renters, which are our clients, and then they actually tour the apartment complexes by themselves with the apartment complex's staff. I like to call them on-site leasing agents. So the on-site leasing agents actually give our clients that we refer over a tour, answer questions, and they take care of the paperwork, which is typically like an apartment association application, right? Here in Texas, it's called a TAA, right? So like the application and the signing of the lease, that's actually not handled by us as the brokerage firm or as the agents. It's all handled by the property. So it's super exciting, because where else do you know where you can be, involved somewhere inside of a lucrative real estate sub niche in the real estate industry where you don't have to deal with paperwork? It's so great, especially when you think about just how time consuming paperwork is and boring. Like, it's so boring doing paperwork, right? But you got to take it seriously if it's required in your niche, because if you don't, you might be able to you can get into some serious legal issues as well if you grammar fail on paperwork, etc. Right? So that's why paperwork is a very big deal. But as apartment locators, we don't even have to worry about that stuff, right? So that's definitely going to be included in today's top 5 of why apartment locating is freaking awesome. But let's move on to the second. Alright, so the second reason why apartment locating is so freaking awesome is because we deal with warm calls instead of cold calls, right? So maybe we title this one warm calls instead of cold, right? So what I mean by warm calls instead of cold calls is that as an apartment locator, right, the nature of basically setting up our marketing and generating business that we work, and how to find the actual renters or people looking to rent an apartment, we post on basically free sites for the most part. So we post ads on apartment deals all over the internet, right? And then the clients, our leads, actually call us based off of our advertisement, and then they're just calling us, actually requesting more information about an apartment complex or a unit we advertise, or maybe we're advertising our services. I explain all the different tactics, obviously, in my program. Here's a golden nugget on the second point, right? There's a big difference between when clients call you asking you for further information instead of you reaching out to them, right? Because you lose leverage when you reach out to people randomly, which is a cold call, right? Maybe let's use being a realtor as an example, right? What do a lot of realtors do, right? They called on for sale by owners, FSBOs. They called on expired listings to try to get the people to change their mind and use them, right? There's like a sales pitch attached to that. And then maybe you're a realtor and you're using like a cold call scraper tool like RedX or Mojo or Storm Dialer or something, right? Wherever you're getting your leads, usually as a realtor, you're reaching out to the potential lead. So you lose leverage that way because it's like you're just a salesperson that's calling them at a random part of day. You know, they might be having dinner with their family, they might be at work. We never really know. You know, you can get business done this way, right? Because that's what most everyone does, like if you're a salesperson or an agent, right? But with apartment locating, you know, that's not really how it works. You know, it wouldn't really make sense to just call people randomly and ask them if they're interested in renting an apartment, right? Because the beautiful thing about apartment locating is that renting an apartment's not a big deal, like listing a house, etc. And it's not like we're traditional salespeople we're trying to sell them like a physical product or a service for an actual price, like for money, right? As an apartment locator, we don't even charge our clients anything, right? So what we do is all we're doing is we're helping them transition into acquiring a very basic form of housing, which is just renting an apartment complex, which everyone does before they buy a house, right? Everyone rents first. You don't just leave your parents' house and go buy a house, right? I mean, I guess some people might, but the majority of people don't do that. So the point here is that because the nature of how marketing for apartment locating, because it works in the sense where we're posting ads online and clients actually reach out to us and ask for further information, that's a warm call because they're already interested in talking to us in the first place, right? We're not bugging them, right? So that's a really, really big advantage of apartment locating because if you do warm calls instead of cold calls, just business is easier and it's less stressful, and your closing ratio increases because these people are already proven interested when you get on the phone with them, right? So that kind of sort of leads into the third reason, right? So the third advantage of apartment locating is there's no real need for paid traffic or paid marketing. So it sort of ties into this, right? We just talked about how we post on free organic platforms for free, and then these people contact us. But the third reason is that there's actually no need for paid traffic or paid marketing as well, right? So, you know, disclaimer, obviously, if you set up paid Facebook ads or paid Google ads, like we all know that paid traffic is the best way to market online, obviously, right? But the point here in number 3 is that it's not really required, right? You can make 6 figures in a year by posting on free organic platforms and just helping people rent a basic apartment without actually paying for Facebook ads or donating money to Google ads, right? Because you know, running paid ads online, you know, whether it's even Zillow or paid Facebook ads or paid Google ads, it takes money, but it also takes expertise. You've got to target your audiences in the right way. You've got to split test, you know, ad creatives and ad pictures and ad copy, which is the text part, and see what works. And there's a big period, like a 2 to 3 month period of where you're just funding money into these paid ad campaigns just to get data, and then you're going to optimize in the future. So it really takes a big investment to do paid ads successfully, right? But with apartment locating, you don't really need to do that to hit 6 figures because the process is so simple. As you can imagine, like think about when you rented an apartment, right? It probably wasn't that big of a deal. You probably jumped on apartments.com or you jumped on Craigslist. That's one of the sites we use. And you probably, you know, looked around, called a couple landlords, and then rented an apartment really quick, right? Because it's not like you own the property. You're just renting there. So the point is, you don't really need to use paid traffic in the apartment locating business in order to be very successful, right? And that's super, super rare in any business today, right? Take like, I don't know, Shopify, that business model for an example, right? You know how like whenever you set up a Shopify store and everything's like your store is looking perfect and you've got products, you know how no one really buys unless you have, because you have to run Facebook ads, like unless you run Facebook ads to your store. Like it's like paid ads is a requirement basically in business models sales, like if you have a Shopify store, etc. And most businesses require, you know, some level of paid traffic in order to be successful with it, right? But with apartment locating, it's one of the few businesses that where you can actually get away with not actually putting a dollar into paid ads and still make 6 figures for the year. That's why this business is very, very interesting, and that's why I love it. All right, so the fourth reason is basically like the closing an apartment locating client compared to any other client inside of the real estate industry is way faster, right? So it's basically, what do we call this with this fourth one? Probably like quicker turnaround. Let's call this quicker client turnaround. So what I mean by this is, let's take being a realtor as an example again. All right, so if you're a realtor, right, what are all the steps that you have to do to close someone as a realtor, right? There's tons of steps. There's like a dozen steps or so, okay? Like first you gotta probably attend an open house or do a bunch of cold calls, right? And that's that process we just talked about, how it's much harder in the second reason, right? A couple minutes ago. So you do that, you got to set an appointment. So then the appointment has to come in, you go through their pre-qualification, and the pre-qual is harder than apartment pre-qual. You know, so that is an important factor as well. After the pre-qual, you almost always have to go and actually drive and show property or houses with your clients, because it's such a big deal. Buying a house is such a bigger deal than renting an apartment, because they're going to own it. So people like to take a long time and be more indecisive when they purchase houses instead of renting apartments, right? So that's the third life cycle stage, is go out, you check out the property, and then actually, really, before the third one, we should have talked about getting a mortgage loan, right? So the fourth reason, which really should have been before the third reason, is you got to get a mortgage loan, right? And a lot of clients actually appreciate brokers that help their clients get approved for a mortgage and help them through the application, etc., right? So you got to get a mortgage loan, and those are hard to qualify because you've got to be in the same industry for the last 2 years, and you've got to prove tax returns, etc. Unlike apartment locating, where you just show them your last 2 weeks of pay stubs, right? And even if you don't have pay stubs, you just get your like if you're working with like a waitress or a waiter client as an apartment locating client, a lot of the times they don't get big paychecks because they're tipped out. Well, then a simple letter on like Microsoft Word from their supervisor's work as proof of income. You guys getting this? It's much easier to pre-qualify locator clients over realtor clients. But let's continue, right? So that's the fourth life cycle stage. You get the mortgage, and then what you do is you finally basically zero in on a property that your clients like, and then you got to make an offer, right? So you got to make an offer based off of things that you might want to negotiate, right? So there might be a negotiation stage, which might be the fifth stage in the life cycle. And then after that fifth stage in the life cycle, the negotiation stage, when you finally negotiate a price, then the sixth life cycle stage is setting up an inspection, right? Making sure like the roof is still in good condition, the foundation is good, etc., etc., etc. And usually when I say there's the sixth inspection stage, really there's a couple different inspections, right? When you're a realtor, there's usually like a general home and pre-purchase inspection, right? But a lot of the times you've got to, and especially in Texas, but in a lot of markets, you've got to get a separate inspection to check out like the septic, right? Like the pipes, etc. And those are more involved inspections, right? You got to check that out as well. So it's really like a couple of inspections that you have to set up. So that's like puts us at life cycle stage number 7. And then after that, you gotta, if the offer is finally accepted, everything is inspected, everything looks good, you gotta deal with the earnest money deposit as well, right? So that's like the 8th life cycle stage. Who's going to handle the earnest check, etc., the broker, the title company, etc., figure that out. So that's the 8th step right there. Then finally you attend closing, where you got to go to another appointment in person, and it's like you, the client, the title company, etc., right? You're going over the HUD-1 settlement, making sure everything lines up. And then finally you did it, but it took you like 9 or 10 life cycle stages, right? As opposed to apartment locating, where there's really only 3 life cycle stages, and it's much more laid back. Okay, so as an apartment locator, we post on free online platforms. So that's what you do. The people call you. So step number 1 is like, after you post on the free online platforms, you just wait for people to call you, and then you go over a pre-qual with them. That's the first life cycle stage. And then the second life cycle stage is like, once you have the pre-qual and you go over that conversation, you just email them a list of like 10 apartments, right? So the second life cycle stage is like email a list of the 10 apartments. And basically that's it, right? If you did a good job selecting 10 relevant apartment options because you did a good job during the pre-qualification initial conversation on the first step, they're gonna lease one of the apartments on your list that you recommended to them. That's just what happens, right? And so then it takes us to the third life cycle stage, which is just follow-up. And so that's basically it as an apartment locator. Someone calls you, you send them a list of like 10 relevant apartments. And remember, people make up their minds on apartments way quicker than if they were buying a house. So naturally, you can understand how it would make sense for someone to acquire an apartment rental quicker than selling a house, right? So that's it. 3 life cycle stages. You just follow up with them. And then remember, the on-site leasing staff at the apartment is going to give them a tour and answer more questions anyways. So it's like a free assistant for us whenever they go and tour the apartments. But that's it. And then you close and you just send over a bill to the apartment complex, all digitally through your database, right? So speaking about the database and how we send over invoices, that takes us to our last 5th reason on why apartment locating is so advantageous. The 5th reason is minimal software required. Okay, so I get this question a lot on my Instagram DM, and by the way, you guys should follow my Instagram. It's at Pierre Meji. I post a lot of real estate content on there as well, and workout gains whenever I feel like trolling. But anyways, though, so the 5th is minimal software required. So I get this question a lot on my DMs, especially people that are about to invest in my program and then they have like some questions before. A lot of people DM me, hey Pierre, I'm really interested in investing in your apartment locating masterclass program, but I'm wondering what additional expenses I might have to incur, right? A lot of people have this question. So the cool thing about locating is really there's like one piece of software. Well, there's 2 critical softwares that you need to use in order to really succeed and to earn 6 figures your first year, right? And that is your highly relevant apartment locating database. That's basically the only paid software we use. So what's cool is that like it's only like $40 a month, and then if you pay it like for a year in full, it's like $30 a month. So that's the only real expense that's continuous as an apartment locator, right? And because, you know, we don't actually need access to the MLS. So if you compare that with like being a traditional realtor, you need to pay, you know, be a part of your board of realtors in whatever market you're in. So it's usually like $1,000 to $2,000 yearly fee, and then there's like a quarterly fee on top of that, right? So it's very expensive to be a part of your MLS and then to get your super key, etc., so you can show houses, right? So all of that stuff's very, very expensive, you know, compared to like $30 a month for your apartment locating database, right? So that's the only real critical software you need as a locator is just your database, and that's it, because that's where you send lists over to people, and that's how you send over invoices to properties where you've referred your clients to and they ended up signing an apartment lease. So it's all done in the database, right? It's going down in the database. So that's all you really need to pay for, right? The second software that's pretty much critical is Trello, and I teach Trello because it is basically a free software that you can use to get organized, because as an apartment locator we do work with a lot of clients, more than that of a normal realtor, right? Like I lease like 20 or 30 people in a month, but even if the average locator did 10 clients in a month, you know, you get the idea. That's like 120 clients at the end of the year. So you do need to get organized as well, because you're closing 10, but my closing ratio is like anywhere from 20 to 40%. So that means I might be working with 30 leads before 10 of them close. So it's really important to get like an organizational software tool leveraged. And I teach Trello, and it's free, right? So that's all you really need is like Trello and your apartment locating database. Trello is free. The database is like $30 a month, and that's all it really takes. So that is super, super cool, right? Especially if you look at other more modern businesses today, like let's use Shopify again for an example, right? I'm just roasting Shopify for no good reason, but it's just the first business I'm thinking of off the top of my head, right? So with Shopify, it's like, you know how you need so many software tools to get that thing going, right? You need paid ads, you need like Overlow, you need like all these other tools, all these Chrome extensions to like see if the opportunity is good through AliExpress, etc., and all these plugins, right? So it's like, that's what people don't tell you. With a lot of businesses, you need so many different tools and stuff to get things done, right? But with apartment locating, truly, you only need a database. I recommend Trello because it's free, but I mean, it's like 2 softwares and that's it. Okay, so obviously I teach more advanced softwares in my program, you know, to really scale up and automate the apartment locating business. But the only real essential software requirement is the database, right? So that basically covers the top 5 advantages of apartment locating inside of the real estate industry as real estate agents. And here's a bonus reason, right? A bonus reason that I'm just going to add is we didn't talk about how you can work from home as an apartment locator, right? So if you look around my environment right now, you know, a lot of the times this is my office. It's actually my bedroom, right? So like, where else do you know in the real estate industry where you can be a real estate agent, earn 6 figures from commissions, like from your bed, right? I mean, check this out. I literally leased some apartments today, and look, I've got like a wireless keyboard, a wireless mouse, and that's it. Like, actually my TV is my computer monitor right now. So that's how I lease apartments, right? I just have like a couple softwares pulled up and I'm like leasing people literally from my bed. So I wake up, I lease some apartments, and I go back to sleep. I'm just kidding. I'm actually more productive than that. But you get the idea, right? You can actually work from home because in a lot of markets, most apartments actually allow you to refer clients over and not actually go there and be there with them, right? And sometimes the clients appreciate that too, because a lot of my clients, especially I've noticed the high-end clients in apartment locating, a lot of the times they don't really like my locators or for me to go on tour with them because they don't want like an agent to be with them because a lot of people, I feel like it's like the sales pressure. A lot of people, they just don't want to wait for you to show up at the right time. These people have busy schedules. They don't want to come into your office. They just want to go quickly grab an apartment that works for them. And I'm guessing that they just don't want us trying to sell them as we're on tour. Maybe that's why a lot of clients actually don't prefer that I don't show up with them, but the buildings prefer us to stay home as well in a lot of markets because they already hire on-site leasing agents to basically do the job that we would do if we were on tour. So it's like, why are there 2 real estate professionals doing the same job, right? And so by working from home, we can basically optimize everyone's experience. You know, the on-site leasing agents experience, it's probably better for them to do their own job without us there trying to do their job for them. For the client, it's like they're more relaxed, laid back, only dealing with one leasing agent. And for us, we do less work and we make more money and we get to work from home, right? So that's why this job is really cool because you can actually work from home. Now, some markets in some states like Florida, like it's like half of the apartments require you to actually go on tour in order to get compensated. But there are still, you know, a lot of buildings that let you work from home. And even if the building requires you to go on tour with your client, I actually teach exclusive to my students ways that we can go around that and still get compensated by working from home without actually going on tour with our clients. But that's secrets for my paid students. So I hope you guys appreciated this video. We just covered the top 5 advantages of apartment locating, and I will see you guys on the next one.